Now we have to get into this conversation, Lepore, and John Cooper on the ice after the Lightning won the cup was talking about this, and I believe Steven Stamkos even alluded to this. This Lightning team knew damn well that this same team was not going to be back next season because,
How come?
as we all know, the Tampa Bay Lightning stashed Nikita Kucherov on long-term injured reserve this year. He missed the entire season, the entire 56-game regular season, rehabbing from hip surgery. So they were able to stash his contract. They were in the playoffs competing at $18 million over the salary cap. So, Lepore, I ask you this. Should there be an asterisk next to this championship for the Tampa Bay Lightning because they were this much over the salary cap?
Okay. I'm going to say, wait for it. Everyone's getting nervous to attack or getting ready to attack. I'm going to say no, there should not be an asterisk. And I'll tell you why. Everyone's pointing to them being 18 million over the cap. Everyone's pointing to the LTIR stuff. People are forgetting too. Remember they picked up Gabrick. So that gave them more space. So there's a lot going on here with regard to how Tampa got to the position they were in. The reason why I'm not going to point to them and call them cheaters and forever look at this Stanley Cup championship with an asterisk in mind is because of the way it happened. See, people are pointing to the rule, and I think this is fair to do. I think it's fair to point to the rule and say it has to be changed because what a team could do. It can get fishy in the way that a team could fake injuries so they can add at the deadline and then add those guys back at the right time. If that would have been the case, I would have said, yeah, that's bullshit. Like put the asterisks on there. But with this Tampa team, so many things aligned perfectly that I don't really blame them for it. Because if you look at it, it's not a matter of, oh my God, they just added a whole bunch of shit at the deadline because they had guys on LTIR. They just didn't get rid of anyone from the previous year because of those injuries, and they could now afford, they could afford it. So here they are as a team. Okay, we have these injuries to our club, some big money guys. We're going into the season, and it's a shortened season and a weird COVID season as well. And we're going in, we might as well stay the course for now. And then people are pointing to the fact that Kucherov was apparently skating like way back and could have played way back. And yeah, you're totally allowed to point to that and say, you know what, he totally could have came back earlier. But really, again, from Tampa Bay's perspective, why would they do that? If they don't have to and they're not forced to, and if the player is willing to just wait a few more weeks, why not? Or a few more months, but why not? And I think really and truly, the stars align not so much on the Tampa Bay end, but also just in the way of the season. Like we had a shortened year, we had a COVID year, we had like a weird season where teams were only playing each other in a division. Because I think when people point to this and say, "Oh, look what a team could just do this, and this to do it," you're forgetting that the player would have to be willing to do that. Like, I'll use the Leafs example. People would say, well, Austin Matthews can fake an inch. Well, you think Austin Matthews is going to take half a season?
Why the hell would a player want to, do something like that and sit out an entire regular season?
And not to mention like a really good player. Like, oh, I'm in the Art Ross race. I'm just going to like chill and then there's agents involved, the PAs involved. So in this case, I just think it worked out perfectly. And again, people are allowed to shit at it. Like they're allowed to be upset, point to it. It's unfortunate. I think I'm totally okay with that. But I just think it was a certain year where it happened. Kucherov did get a surgery, everyone. He did, in fact.
Off-season hip surgery.
Yeah,
this wasn't a broken bone or a separated shoulder. Off-season hip surgery. Yeah. This was a serious injury.
What I would like to know, though, is because the NHL is such a weird league, what is the protocol for a player to actually hit LTIR? Like, it seems like it's like pretty easy to do, but there's got to be some sort of like process with regard to the PA or the player, or like some sort of medical certification has to be stamped on it that yes, like it hit whatever level of whatever injury this player can be on LTIR. So I would think that has to come into play as well. So I don't know though. It'll be interesting to see how the league approaches it, because what's going to happen is, okay, so what's going to happen next year? What are teams going to do? Are teams going to try to pull the same shit in different ways? But then on the league's end, like I think the league will do something eventually on how they restructure the cap and this thing specifically. But they don't want to do it too quickly because, like, let's say they say this summer you can't do that. Well, now you're pointing the finger, and that's a bad look. So they'll give it a few years. They'll see how other teams approach it. But long and short of it, no, like I don't give them an asterisk because, well, I'll say it this way: I wouldn't have done anything differently. I wouldn't have anything both on the side of the Tampa Bay Lightning, and even if I'm Kucherov, again, like I had a major hip surgery. It's a weird COVID year. Yeah, I'll take the extra whatever time off and just come back fresh for the playoffs because really and truly, more than even any other year, that's what matters. So, and I don't care about my points or whatever because, again, I missed most of the year and no one's going to care about this season anyway, really, when they look back at my career. So I'm okay with it, man. I'm okay with it. Are you?
I'm 100% okay with it. I don't think there should be an asterisk at all. And even looking at Kucherov, Lepore, he's under contract for the next 6 years at $9.5 million. So it's not like this guy was not like he was in a contract year and needed to come and play and prove himself. It's like you said, I think it was just a perfect storm of events that ended up working out in their favor because, you know, they win the Stanley Cup last season in the bubble after the season was extended by 5 months because of COVID. So you had an extremely quick turnaround and not an extremely. So the season ended last year, early September.
And they went all the way. They did go all the way though, Bruno.
Yeah. So the season ends in September. So, I mean, it was a quick turnaround. You go to training camp in December and the season is starting second week of January. So this guy has off-season hip surgery. And, you know, you're the Tampa Bay Lightning. You're like, okay, well, why are we going to rush this guy back? We just won the Stanley Cup. We have a ton of depth. I mean, we just talked for 20 minutes about how deep and talented this Lightning team is. So why wouldn't they do what they did? And, you know, I'm sure going through the first, let's say 20, 30 games of this 56 game season, the Lightning were probably thinking, wow, we're pretty damn good. Even without Nikita Kucherov and even with Steven Stamkos missing all this time.
That's the point too. I think people are forgetting. You have to be good enough to make the playoffs without those guys.
Yeah, like the Buffalo Sabres aren't going to stash Jack Eichel on LTIR and make the playoffs.
Well, I'll say even us, do we have the balls to put like Matthews and or Marner on LTIR?
That's dicey.
I'd be like, no, like
we're making the playoffs in that situation.
Yeah, we're taking too much of a risk. So one thing people can say is that you can do it right. And again, this is why I'd like to know what the process of it a week before the trade deadline. You could fake that injury, add the guy at the deadline, and then that player doesn't come back. But again, like I don't think it's that simple to just, oh, so-and-so is injured. We're going to add Connor McDavid. And that, you know what I mean? Like I think people sometimes don't give these big bodies enough credit. And by bodies, I mean like the National Hockey League or the Players Association.
Yeah, because I would imagine like there's medical things involved, right? Like you'd have to prove like with your medical team, and who knows, maybe there's ways around this, but like that so-and-so has, you know, this injury or that injury, right? You can't just be like, well, this guy separated his shoulder. Even
he sprained his pinky. He can't play.
Yeah. And it's like, well, wasn't there evidence?
Like to make it about the Leafs, that whole thing with Lupul, wasn't there some sort of investigation where the league brought in like an independent medical staff?
Yeah, you had the Lupul thing and then Robida Island.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Lupul had so many injuries. The guy was injured every intermission. The guy came out with an injury. So, I mean, sure, that one wasn't that difficult.
Yeah, that guy was a walking Band-Aid. But yeah, like going back to my point here is like everything just worked out for this team. And they were playing so well without Nikita Kucherov. There was no reason to rush the guy back. And you know what? If you're in that situation and your team's that good and you have the ability to take advantage of a loophole like that, and it's under the rules, then by all means, go ahead. Don't blame the Tampa Bay Lightning for doing that. Yeah. And again, you know, like Lepore said, like you have to be good enough to still make the playoffs without a player like that. So let's not be up in arms here. Like this team, like I said, had the 8th best record in the National Hockey League this season without Nikita Kucherov. So it's absurd. So, yeah, I don't think there should be an asterisk. And it was impressive, honestly, Lepore, like how he just came back and was flying.
Crazy.
From the first game.
Didn't he score? Didn't he score?
I think he had 3 points.
Yeah, I think it was like 2 goals. I didn't want to get ahead of
playoffs.
myself. I think I remember like 2 goals, like him celebrating. Oh
Yeah,
my
against
God.
the Florida Panthers. And I don't think people understand like how insane that is. Like you don't just come back from a surgery like that and from the second you step on the ice, you basically return to MVP Nikita Kucherov. Like
Yeah,
that dude is one of the top. I think he's one of the top 5 players in the world. I
sure.
mean, you could argue in terms of like all around players, like maybe he's a top 5 offensive player, but in terms of being a two-way player,
Whatever.
maybe you disagree with me. But
I thought we've agreed on this show, Bruno. Scoring's all that matters, right?
yeah,
Who cares about your own
in
end?
my book, at least, he's a top 5 player in the world. I mean, the guy led the playoffs in scoring by 9 points, could have easily won the Conn Smythe over Andre Vasilevsky. But yeah, I mean, to answer the question again, no, I don't think the Lightning cheated here. I don't think there should be an asterisk. I think this was a phenomenal team that dominated from game 1 of the playoffs and was fully deserving of becoming back-to-back Stanley Cup champions.
It kind of dawned on me last night watching the celebrations. So when I was a kid, there was like the whole Russian explosion of players. And I mean, they were great, and they pumped out cups with the Red Wings. And then you'd always get that, these great Russian stars come in the league, obviously like Ovechkin and Fedorov, Bure. It was amazing. And then it kind of tailed off. And then there was all like the debates about like, the Russian program, where does it lie? What kind of players are they producing? And then it got to the point where even like some teams don't even have scouts in Russia, and they won't draft Russian players. Part of it's because they're afraid they're just going to stay in the KHL and it's a waste of a draft pick, but that's a whole other thing. But I was thinking last night, man, I'm like, you have Kucherov, Vasilevsky, and Sergachev. Like you have 3 Russian studs on this Tampa Bay team. And I'd like to going around the league, how many other teams have that? And it's not that like I'm not saying they did it on purpose or whatever. I'm just saying I think it's kind of cool that like they have those 3 Russian studs on that team, and they're great players, and it's a topic to talk about, right? It seems like it's been such a thing over the last little while of like teams kind of avoiding Russia, but hell, it's working for Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the top Russian scorers right now from the regular season. I guess the only other team you could say, Washington and New York. New York has Panarin and Pavel Buchnevich.
Buchnevich, yeah, okay.
And then Washington, obviously, with Ovechkin and Kuznetsov.
Yeah,
just won the cup a couple or 3 years ago now. How
long I'm trying to think.
3-4
who's
years?
that? Washington. Yeah, I'm trying to think though. Like Russia right now, what would be like? Because you mentioned Sergachev. Like, what would Russia's like top 6 D be? Because remember, like the World Cup of hockey.
Yeah, okay.
Like the World Cup of hockey. They had Zaitsev, remember? That was like Leafs fans all excited. Like, we got this guy for free, and he was on he was on Team Russia at the World Cup. So
yeah, so you want to hear this, Lepore? I'm just looking at the leading scorers among D-men. So obviously there's other ways to evaluate D-men, but Sergachev led all Russian D-men this year with 30 points in 56 games. Provorov was
He's their 3rd defenseman, and he had 30 points.
30 points in 56 games, just a beast. Can skate like the wind, super powerful, like awesome strength. Like Sergachev's a beast.
Kind of like how we think about Stamkos, like every night being in bed, like dreaming about playing the Toronto Maple Leafs and regretting that he didn't sign with them. You think Sergachev feels the same way about that Montreal deal, or he's just like, wow, man, like,
oh, Sergachev is loving life. Loving life right now.
They love Florida. They say the Russians love Florida. Like, I think it was this year, the All-Star game was supposed to be in Florida. And people are like, watch out for the Russians, because like the Russians just love Florida. They'll be on the beach, every bar, everywhere. Like if you ever want to like pick an All-Star game to travel to, they're like, go to that one, because the Russians are going to take over Florida.
Oh, I love it. But yeah, looking at some other D-men here. So Dmitry Orlov finished 3rd among Russian D-men in scoring, excuse me. And then 4th is our boy Nikita Zaitsev. Nikita Zaitsev and Artem Zub. So 2 Senators finished among the top 5 scorers among Russian-born defensemen this year in the NHL.
From Russia with love. There you go.
But yeah, I mean, Lepore, there's really nothing else to say about this Lightning team. Like, you can be pissed off all you want. And I know there's a lot of haters out there that, are saying, screw this. They were 18 million over the cap, blah, blah, blah. You know what? Cry me a river. This team was built just phenomenally by Julien Brisebois and the other, everyone else involved in that management team. Braden Point, 3rd round pick. Nikita Kucherov, 2nd round pick. Alex Killorn, I believe Alex Killorn was a late round pick as well. Yanni Gourde. Like, just go down the list. This team has done a phenomenal job drafting and developing players.
Yeah. Yeah. We talk about like being up at night and with regret. Steve Yzerman.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
I mean, he has to be given credit, though.
Oh my God, 100%. And
that was the foundation, right, of this team.
And he just left. I mean, that was him, right? He just was like personal reasons at the time, they said, and it was weird because they were so good. But yeah, that one might be true.
Yeah. But yeah, this Lightning team is next level.